I don't think this docuseries accomplished what she thought it was going to accomplish. This docuseries was announced, a lot of people were saying that they didn't believe that Tyra would be taking any accountability for the damage done by the show. And watching this, I actually think it's something a little bit different. I find that there is such a cognitive dissonance that Tyra has with what she thought she was doing with this show impacting the modeling industry versus what was actually happening on the show. Tyra talks about starting Top Model as this like tool to encourage diversity in the modeling industry, to include women who are not of the typical size, shape, look. And she's also cutting to these confessionals where she's like reacting to scenes that are like so clearly problematic of her talking about women's bodies, about their personalities, about their teeth, like things that are happening to these women on her show. The show is like very actively perpetuating these problems that are not only specific to the modeling industry, but like really were permeating the culture in the early 2000s. She believed to be a tool for empowerment and diversity was actually a tool for magnifying these like very toxic standards being put on women at the time. And like contributing to those standards, right? Contributing to that conversation. When I talk about cognitive dissonance, I'm talking about moments like this where Tyra is acknowledging that like something was wrong, but she understands it to be like almost separate from who she truly is. This moment specifically is after we are hearing from Danny, the Cycle 6 winner, who had to close the gap on her teeth in order to remain on the show per Tyra's demands, makeover demands. She's upset. She's still upset. She's showing up in the documentary talking about the dental procedure. And Tyra's like, actually, I've already apologized for that. There's another moment that got me like really upset, and I can talk about that in another video, where Tyra is talking about Shandy, a woman from Cycle 2, who is SA'd on camera. And there's this like cognitive dissonance where she's like, we were putting on a show, this is what people were demanding, but it's not fully registering that those were still like her decisions, and she still at this point in the show had like some autonomy. These three, I'm not sure how I'm supposed to feel after watching the docuseries, Nigel and the Jays, because at different points they all had ownership over aspects of the show, aspects of this very problematic culture of the show. However, they all got a really rough cut in the end. Very like unceremoniously fired from the show, and it was like leaked to the press and they weren't able to do a formal press release. And it seems like the three of them are on like very, very good terms still. Point being, like, they also had a hand in it. Of course, like, not to the extent that Tyra did, but differently from her, they can all acknowledge what was problematic about their contributions. We saw in the trailer Jay Manuel talking about the race swap photo shoot, and while he does not like take credit for that idea, he can acknowledge like that was wrong, we shouldn't have done it. They do it again, like in a later season. But anyway, at this point, like through cycle 9, when Jay was trying to leave, he had creative control over some portion of the show. Talk about wanting to leave, and there's a point where he like tries to email Tyra and like talk through his feelings, and then he's like cut off from her socially. They do not speak outside of the show, and he's essentially just like hired on as talent. To me, it seems like the framing of these three is kind of like there was a point where yeah, they were very involved, but then they were kind of just like along for the ride, and this was a job. Part of me that's curious like why Tyra would want to be involved in a docuseries like this, because I don't think again that this like painted her in the light that